please.
And this report, in fact, it should be understood in relation to two things. One is the kind of work that has been happening under the banner of the ISED Small Enterprise Observatory over the past 25 years. And this is the Silver Jubilee year of the Observatory. And along with the Observatory, there is a twin child, and that is the India MSME report series, which is looking into state of small, micro, small and medium enterprises in the country. But as all of us know, small, micro, small, medium enterprises, they have been typically described as the base of the pyramid. Naturally, I mean, in terms of numbers, no, they are the largest group among enterprises in the country, naturally in any part of any other country also. And focusing on these enterprises at the national level, as all of us know, is an extremely difficult task, because you will have to arrive at conclusions on the basis of such a very diverse and dispersed sector of the economy over a short period of 1 year, no, which is the reporting period. And now, having completed 25 years of our exercise in the subject area, we thought that there need to be a more focused attention on the kind of developments that are happening at the state level. Not only state level, I would say at the sub-national level, because now whenever we are talking about India's sector, means one will be making conclusions on the basis of the broad, very broad national level experiences. But here the attempt is on looking at particular states, and looking at the states is a country in itself. The kind of enquiries that has to happen, it should be below the level of the state, which again means sub-state level, the district level, as well as considering India's pattern of decentralization at the local self-government level. But all this cannot happen in the short run. In the long run, there is a potential, and this potential we are looking at in terms of bringing out a report focusing on the states of India, all the states and union territories, and having a broad view of the kind of developments in these states and union territories over the last 1 year or probably in recent times. So the report, in fact, has two things. Now, one is the academic part of, the other one is the technical part of. And the technical part of it is significantly crucial, I would say, because of two things. One is that enterprise and entrepreneurship, they are essentially a multi-stakeholder constituency. So being a multi-stakeholder constituency would mean that all the stakeholders, relevant stakeholders, should show active interest in making inquiries into the kind of developments that are happening in this constituency. As all of us know, it may not happen so easily, but in our context, over the last 25 years, we have an immensely encouraging experience of our partner institutions, members of the National Partnership Network, including several stakeholder institutions, including banks, including commercial agencies, state governments, other organizations, non-governmental organizations. All these organizations and individuals have immensely supported us, and because of that, now we could make a platform which is facilitating the kind of work that is happening at the level of the observatory. As also, we have a particular program in itself, and a center, particularly a center, looks into the kind of developments at the state level, ISED Center for Monitoring Enterprise Development in the states. And both national level institutions as well as state level institutions have provided immense support. And it is because of this support that we have been able to take forward this idea into action. And at the outset, I would like to thank all our partner institutions who have been behind us and who have been supporting us immensely. And the second part of it is that this reporting looks at the issues of enterprise development at the state level, not in terms of comparing one state with another or saying that no, one state is better and the other state is not that good. The whole question, having a competitive environment of investment and enterprise development, that is the ongoing paradigm, wherein there is significant scope for all states to come up with their own particular advantages. Some states may be having some disadvantages also. So when comparing states on the basis of their performance, doesn't mean that some state is better than the other one. Here again, as all of us know that investment promotion is a focal area of all state governments, and the state governments are organizing investor meets in almost all states. This has been happening on an annual basis, and wherein the question is, there are two questions. One is that on the basis of this kind of initiatives, what is the output of that? What are the kind of achievements in relation to that? Number one. And number two is that the achievements of the states need not be simply in terms of the kind of efforts they are putting in at the moment. There may be better opportunities also, better strategies also, and those things one will have to find out and will have to share among the states. There is a significant opportunity for that. As in 2022, if we examine the state scene of enterprise development, the important thing that we have to bear in mind is that the whole concept of regional development has undergone a sea change over the last few years. See, let me come to the theme of the report is its focus is on situating and interpreting the concept of region in the subject area of enterprise development. So this needs to be examined in relation to four areas. One is enterprise scene at the state level. What is the still picture that is what we are having? What is UP? What is Gujarat? What is Kerala? What is Tamil Nadu? The still picture of the kind of things that are happening there. Second thing, the new initiatives that are happening in a particular state and not in another state. A third thing, challenges and opportunities of program implementation. A question of economic governance, wherein one can have challenges, one can have opportunities also. One can have opportunities of sharing best practices. There may also be situations where some of the natural advantages of a particular state and the state may not be having. So that would mean that comparing these two states also would become irrational. The fourth thing is a question of branding of states. So this is significantly happening at the moment because the kind of investor meets that are happening in the states, most of the states now, is essentially an attempt at showcasing the state before the international audience and the national audience. And this whole question of branding also, there is no harm in states competing each other. In fact, they should compete also. But competition be on the basis of the relative advantages of particular states, so that the kind of competition between states will be leading to something very positive at the national level. And it should be an attempt at having much greater achievements at the national level, rather than one state making some achievements and others not having those. Next, the question again, we have to discuss a different pattern today. See, look at the traditional concept of a region. The concept of a region or regional development, since independence, we have been focusing on regional development. And in fact, the thrust on development of SMEs, micro enterprises and all that itself is one of the objectives is balanced regional development. And two things are striking there. One is employment promotion. When it comes to enterprises or self-employment activities, there's a huge opportunity of creating employment in the short run. And the second thing is obviously, as I mentioned, the balanced regional development ideas. But now, today, the focus is changing radically. What is important today is positioning the regional economy in the global value chain. As we have seen during the COVID days, how the global value chains becoming so powerful and influential on regional economies. It is important to note that value chains are operative. It is operative at the national level. It is operating at the international level also, regional level also. But then the thing is that value chains, global, national, and national, are influenced significantly by global economic processes. And that is the kind of development that is happening in the recent times. So when we discuss the question of regional development, this angle has to be brought to the fore. That would again mean that there is a significant paradigm change. And this significant paradigm change is from the regional development or conventional understanding of its constraints and opportunities. That is one side of it. The other one is we are fast moving into another paradigm of cubenomics. Cubenomics essentially means that global economy as well as at the national level also, economies are guided by hubs of economic activity. So if we discuss that in the context of enterprise, that would mean there is a tendency of entrepreneurial activities, businesses, markets getting concentrated into particular hubs, and these hubs are there now globally. And the striking thing is that the hubs are increasingly viewed in terms of a global platform, not in terms of a national platform. For example, globally speaking, we have centers of information technology. In India, we speak of Bangalore, a place like Bangalore or some other city that is there. We try to compare that with another hub in another country. So the comparison goes that way. That would again mean that our social orientation behind regional development, that again has to be juxtaposed with the kind of objective developments that are happening in the economy, nationally as well as globally. Therefore, the concept of regional development needs some kind of a reinterpretation based on the objective opportunities and constraints within which enterprises will have to operate. And if this is the background which we are having, again that would mean that small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses have their own advantages and disadvantages. Behind that, again, these global trends and patterns are there as strong influence. The challenge of public policy today is minimizing the conflict between regional and global factors to the advantage of the regions. How this would be done, it's a question of policy, it's a question of strategy. We have tried to, at the ISED Small Enterprise Observatory, we have tried to examine this in relation to a plus and minus model. This is proposed by the observatory. It puts forward two triangles that explain the process of local enterprise development. If you look at the local scene is influenced by two triangles. And these two triangles are different. They are governed by different variables. There is one triangle which is the contributory triangle, which examines the relationship between the factors that contribute to local enterprise development. That may be natural legacy, advantages of a region. Say, for example, if we look at Coimbatore, if we look at Trichy in Tamil Nadu, there are certain advantages. These advantages, say for example, if you go to the textile hubs, the textile legacy is there. If you go to the engineering clusters, you have the engineering process capabilities are there. That kind of capabilities may not be there in some other region of the country. So the implication is that when it comes to policy, having more of numbers of businesses being started up or promoted by itself may not help, and that may not help the mission of regional development. Then the other part of it is the deterrent triangle. The deterrent triangle, on the contributory triangle, the three sides of the triangle are explained by labor productivity, manufacturing capability, and process capability. When it comes to deterrent triangle, the relationship between the deterrent variables is examined. Look at that in terms of the extent of capital formation, localized disadvantages, because some states have disadvantages simply in terms of their location, and then poor governances or relatively poor governance. So if you put that in terms of the triangles, it is shown here, the conceptual model as it is given. One part of it is the heritage part, the other one is the skills part, particular skills available in a particular state or particular region, and the infrastructural advantages that state or region is having. Say, for example, here Tamil Nadu, there is a significant advantage of infrastructure there. If you also consider some states, just like Uttar Pradesh, is having a significant advantage in terms of infrastructure. Come to Kerala, there is a significant advantage in terms of heritage. But the same heritage advantage we find in states like Tamil Nadu, textile heritage, and Uttar Pradesh, say, for example, the Aligarh metal industry or that kind of things. If you go to Kanpur, leather, just like that. So deterrent triangle also the same thing. Some states are having advantages in terms of major capital investments happened over a period of time, not now, over a period of time. That advantage is there. And then locational disadvantages and advantages, and the governance advantages and disadvantages. So if this is the picture, this is the kind of broad picture that is available on the country. Then the question is, given all this, how can we move forward? Can there be an operational plan? And how this operational plan has to be arrived at. So this essentially is a question of identifying the causal relationship that are available from the regions, from the states. Any massive program of entrepreneurship development requires a mechanism for regular monitoring of not only businesses, advantages, investments, but also the demography of businesses. What is happening there in terms of new businesses that are coming, businesses that are exiting, and the net balance of it, how many are surviving, that essentially is the alter ego of morbidity position, which means how many businesses are healthy and what is the net result of that on the regional economy and the state's economy, and essentially in terms of the contribution they make to the economy. Another thing which we are used to generally at the state level, naturally the political compulsions are there. States, governments will have to showcase their achievements. That is applicable for other regional governments also. And in such a competitive environment, the achievements on the enterprise front has been picturized in terms of a kind of stock flow relationship. Stock is the kind of activities, businesses that are there, and the flow is the net additions to that over a period of time. This relationship is examined. It is natural that every government in the states or in the municipality or in the districts, they would try to a large number of enterprises or entrepreneurial activities over a period of 1 year, say if it is a reporting period, and that is shown as a success story. So generally, this kind of achievements are compared between states. One state has achieved so much and another state has achieved so much. But then when it comes to the core of it, it cannot be the criteria for comparison of states. The criteria should be more based on the relative advantages of particular states and regions, number one. And number two, in terms of even both the positives and the constraints, taken them together, how they together contribute to the national economy and how they contribute, number one, and number two, how they contribute to the society. Because we, as in 2022, we have a national policy, and the national policy of development of the country is strongly aligned with the sustainable development goals and the goals we are looking at in terms of what we are aiming for 2030. So on the basis of that, the NITI Aayog also has come out with an index for comparison of states on the basis of certain parameters, and this has been used as an indicator, index of comparison. But then the NITI Aayog exercise also, as a preliminary and elementary exercise having all its positive contributions, these positive contributions can arise only if the data system in the states, the quality of the data, the systems, procedures at the state level gets improved over a period of time, number one. And number two is that on the basis of this, a realistic reporting of the kind of development at the state level happens on a regular basis. So strengthening the base of enterprise linkages and entrepreneurship at the regional level, the micro as a subset of the meso and the macro. This kind of a relationship, this need to be constantly monitored and it has to be reported. Such a clear regional story can help us for a national plan and a national strategy in a more successful and meaningful canvas. And in this context, now, what is the offering of the report that is being presented here? It is called E&D report. E&D report stands for India, Enterprise and Entrepreneurship in the States. This is an annual exercise expected to be, and this annual exercise is meant at two things. One is that at the national level, what are the kind of broad developments that are happening relating to enterprise development and entrepreneurship promotion, number one. And number two, how the story is woven at the state level so that it leads to a natural or more productive, more successful initiative at the national level. Looking at this is the mission and the challenge of the report on an annual basis. E&E report is envisaged as a tool that helps to shape a regional policy and a strategic approach. It offers a methodological approach to local enterprise development based on ground realities that is available from the states and imperatives of today, policy imperatives and the perceptions of the people at the ground level. Such an offering relates to 5 aspects as we see. One is the political part of it. Second one is the local economic development part of it. Third is the emerging local aspirations in the market, that essentially in terms of local consumption, how the markets behave and what is its impact on local consumption. Fourth is the role of the social and solidarity economy, organizational part of it. As we have seen it in times of a crisis like COVID, we have seen the influence of this sector, and based on that experience, a new thinking, the thinking was earlier also it was there, but it is getting strengthened in terms of global organization and global inquiries by academia. And the fifth point, that is the need for branding of states. I mentioned earlier, because branding of states is a question of incentives. At the state level, if at all development has to happen, the word development is a quite abstract word. It has to be operationalized, and how this operationalization will happen. And when these things get operationalized, then that creates a comparative opportunity or an opportunity for comparison of states, learning from each other, taking success stories and some of the backward states, supposed to be backward states, catching up with others. So this process will go on. Okay, that thing has, as I mentioned, it has to lead to a national perspective on development. The comparative experience of development in India has been analyzed today on the basis of the SDG index, as I mentioned. Though it is a step in the right direction, it needs to essentially on the basis of 3 of the SDGs that are relevant to the context of enterprise and entrepreneurship. That is 1, SDG number 8 speaks of the labor market. Number 2, SDG number 9 speaks of economic growth, and number 12, which speaks of how production takes place. So this again leads to important questions that seek answers. One is, how does India's entrepreneurship base, we can call it the E&D base, contribute to global sustainable development goals? Number 2, how important the 3 SDGs we mentioned, 8, 9 and 12 in defining India's SDG score at the global level. And number 3, how does the enterprise and entrepreneurship base of a state, say Karnataka or Kerala or some other state, so that contributes to India's country's enterprise and entrepreneurship base? That essentially means the regional contribution to the national economy and to society. So this leads us to a strategic approach, how to move forward. The country needs an entrepreneurship source policy, and possibly we have been articulating this for the last many years, and I would say this is the message that has to be delivered on this National Day of Entrepreneurship. It is not simply more of the same thing. It should be something that is qualitatively different, and its distribution among the states. More important is the additions to the overall base of developed qualitative terms, not only in terms of quantities as we are practicing it today. And then each state has its strategic approach in terms of its future. So it is not a question of comparing one state with another state. It is a question of, on a particular platform, learning from each other. Everybody trying in their own way grow and to contribute to the national economy and society. The question, given the relative advantages of each state, how can they contribute to the national goal of sustainable development? Of course, it needs a strategy for sustainable development, and that is the motto of the institute also. Thank you very much.